If you're stuck, miserable, and feel like you're just surviving, this video is your turning point. It's comfortable to stay in a place of misery and stay in that victim mentality, telling yourself that life sucks, that it doesn't get better, though that no matter how hard you try, that you're stuck. I've been there. I know what it's like to live in that fog, to feel like your life is just happening to you. All you're doing is getting through it and it's just passing you by. You wake up, you force yourself out of bed, you fake a smile, you go through the motions, all while carrying this weight that no one else sees. That was my life, but that's when I made a promise to myself. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I decided that I have to find a way to feel good again, to be happy. So I made just one New Year's resolution, and it wasn't the typical resolutions that you hear. It was just one thing, and that was to be happy. That's it. Because at this point, happiness felt like the biggest goal I could reach for. I didn't need a perfect life, I just needed to not feel like I was drowning every day. I remember someone asked me what my resolution was, and when I told her, she kind of just scoffed at me, like, okay, but how are you going to do that? I could tell that she didn't believe that it was possible. And maybe a part of me didn't believe it either, but I had to try because otherwise I would just stay stuck. I had nothing to lose and everything to gain. So if you're in that place right now, if you're waking up every day wondering if this is just how life is, if life will ever get better, then this video is for you. I'm going to be sharing 10 things that genuinely helped me pull myself out of a rut and start building a life that actually felt good. Hey, I'm Allie, and on this channel, I make videos about manifestation, subliminals, and self development. And if this is resonating with you, it would mean the world to me if you hit the like button so more people can see this. All right, let's get into it. So, the first thing I did was I stopped giving my energy to people and things that didn't serve me. I had friends where I felt like if I didn't give effort, we wouldn't be friends anymore. And it felt very one sided, like I was always the one reaching out, making plans, checking in. And eventually I just got tired. I was tired of proving my worth, of trying to hold together connections that would fall apart the moment that I stopped carrying them. So I just let go. And you know what? The right people stayed. The real ones didn't need convincing. I learned that friendships, like any relationship, should feel mutual, easy, flowing, reciprocal, not like a constant audition. And I started choosing my peace over people pleasing, alignment over obligation. And in that space, I found deeper connections, even if it meant fewer. And I did have times where I felt lonely, especially when I lost friendships. But I flipped that mentality, and those who didn't see my worth or value weren't deserving of my energy. So now I choose quality friendships over quantity. It's less drama and stress. And there's actually this song lyric that I always think of when it comes to this concept, and it's called Typer Girl from Blackpink. The whole song has amazing self concept lyrics, but this specific lyric is if I let you in my circle, you're a winner. So now I always think of this lyric when it comes to the people in my life, and it helps me stay focused on my value and my worth because it's true. If you let someone into your circle, they are a winner. So let's start acting like it. The second thing I did was I stopped blaming others for my circumstances. I used to blame others for how things turned out in my life. It felt easier to point fingers and tell myself if this person didn't hurt me or if they had shown up differently, I'd be further along by now. And honestly, maybe that's true. Maybe I would have been further along if I hadn't gone through what I did when I was younger. But maybe not. Those things made me who I am today, a stronger person. I've always believed in the importance of looking at the full picture, and as someone who studied psychology, I understand how much your childhood impacts who you become as an adult. Trauma and tough circumstances do create real disadvantages, and it's not fair. But what I learned is that even though those things weren't my fault, continuing to live in that blame kept me stuck. I was trapped in a cycle, repeating the same story, expecting to always be behind, waiting on someone else to rescue me, validate me, or make things right. And at some point, I realized that no one's coming to save me. It has to be me. So I took accountability for my life, and that doesn't mean that I was pretending that the past didn't hurt or acting like it didn't affect me. It just meant that I stopped letting it define who I am. I didn't choose my past, but I get to choose how I am in the present and how I'm moving forward. I started asking myself the hard questions. What am I choosing that's keeping me here? Where am I giving my power away? And how can I take it back? Taking responsibility isn't about blame, it's about freedom. It's about stepping into my power, owning my healing, and deciding that I get to write the rest of my story. No more waiting for closure, apologies, the perfect timing. I am the creator of my life now, and the mindset shift changes everything. So, to expand on the previous point, the third thing that I did was I took responsibility for my life. Learning about manifestation opened my eyes to something powerful. We're conditioned to think in terms of the past, present, and future, with the past holding us back and the future being something that we have to wait for. But through manifestation, I learned that this view is actually a limitation. Time doesn't exist, it's an illusion. The past is gone and the future hasn't happened yet. The only thing that truly exists is the present moment. And within this moment is where everything is created. When I understood this, this was a major shift. The life that I want isn't out of my reach, and it's not dependent on what happened before or what might happen in the future. It's right here, available to me right now, and I can choose it right now. The only thing standing between me and the life that I desire is how I choose to show up in the present. For so long, this is something that I'm still working through. I thought that there were limits to what I could achieve, but once I realized that I'm the operant power, it opened my eyes. I'm limitless. Everything is possible. I stopped waiting for circumstances to dictate my progress. I stopped believing that I was bound by past experiences or that I needed some external force to make things happen for me. I make things happen for me. I'm the creator of my own path, and that power is in me right now. So I began to trust the process, trust that everything unfolds for me perfectly, and that I have a direct influence over the timing by how I show up today. I stopped postponing my dreams for some ideal moment. I realized the right time is always right now. It's not tomorrow or a year from now, it's right now, and I am always the one in control of how quickly or slowly things manifest. Taking responsibility for my life meant that I'm fully stepping into the present moment, no longer waiting for something outside of me to change. I understand the only moment I have is right now, and I have the power to create everything I desire from this place. The fourth thing that I began to do was I prioritized myself and my needs. For so long, I put everyone else first, trying to be available, accommodating, loving, and servant minded. Growing up in a Christian background, I was taught that putting others before yourself was the right thing to do, that considering others more than myself was a sign of humility, goodness, and godliness. I genuinely believed that being selfless made me a better person, that the more I gave, the more worthy I became. But all it really did was leave me exhausted, disconnected from myself, and constantly trying to pour from an empty cup. Eventually, I realized that prioritizing myself wasn't selfish. It was actually necessary. It's not about ignoring the needs of others, it's about recognizing that you matter too. My emotions, needs, and well being are important, and constantly abandoning myself just to keep others comfortable isn't good. It's self neglect. I began listening to my body, honoring my emotions, and making decisions that aligned with my peace, not with pressure or expectation. That meant setting boundaries even when it felt uncomfortable, saying no without guilt, letting myself rest without feeling like I had to earn it. I started choosing environments, relationships, and habits that felt nurturing, not draining. And the more I chose myself, the more everything around me began to shift. My energy changed, my confidence grew, I started feeling more grounded, more whole. Life began responding to me differently because I was finally showing up like I mattered. I've learned that once you start prioritizing and choosing yourself, the world begins to mirror that. People start showing up for you the way that you show up for yourself. So if you don't prioritize yourself and choose yourself, others are not going to prioritize or choose you. But if you do prioritize and choose yourself, others will reflect that to you. The fifth thing I did was I started doing things that made me happy. For a long time, I lived in survival mode, focusing on responsibilities, goals, healing. I didn't realize how much I had disconnected from joy, from having fun, from just doing things because they made me feel good. And eventually, I gave myself permission just to do that, to make space for play, to do things that light me up. Not because they were productive or that they made sense to anyone, but because it made me feel alive and present. And one of those things is K pop dance classes. I go to weekly classes because it makes me happy. I love the music, the movement, the energy, and I feel free when I'm dancing. I'm not thinking about anything else, I'm just in the moment. Doing things that bring joy might sound small, but it's actually pretty life changing. Especially when you've been in cycles of burnout or self sacrifice, choosing joy is healing, it's magnetic, and it reminds you that you're allowed to enjoy your life now, not just when everything is perfect. So I kept choosing it. I started dancing more, laughing more, going on walks, trying new things, making time for what felt good. Because my happiness matters and I don't need a reason to feel good. Feeling good is the reason. All right, number six. I stopped taking life so seriously. There was a time where everything felt so heavy. Every setback felt like the end of the world. Every delay felt like a failure. I was constantly overthinking, trying to do everything perfectly, trying to control every outcome. Life started to feel more like pressure than presence, and I felt pressured to be productive every day. But eventually I realized life isn't meant to be this serious. I was holding my breath, waiting for things to go right instead of actually living. I was so focused on getting it all together that I forgot to enjoy the ride. So I loosened my grip. I started laughing more, letting things be imperfect, letting me be imperfect. I allowed myself to be silly, spontaneous, playful. I gave myself grace when things didn't go as planned. I started believing that things could work out, even if I didn't stress over them 24/7, or even if I did stress over them. I just allowed myself to be as I am, to not feel the pressure of having to be perfect. Life doesn't have to be hard to be meaningful. It's allowed to be light, it's allowed to be fun, and when I stopped taking everything so seriously, I actually started feeling more peaceful, more present. Because when you trust yourself and you trust life, you don't have to control everything. You can just be, and that's more than enough. Number seven, I let go of the nice girl identity. For most of my life, I tried to be the nice girl, the one who didn't make waves, the one who was easygoing, agreeable, polite. I was scared of being misunderstood, disliked, or seen as too much, so I softened myself to be more digestible. I smiled when I wanted to speak up. I said it's fine when it wasn't. I kept the peace, even at the cost of my own. But here's the truth, the nice girl isn't the real me. She's a performance, a protective mask. And while she may have made me feel safe growing up, she kept me small as an adult. Because being nice all the time meant being quiet when I needed to be loud. It meant being liked instead of being honest. It meant constantly betraying myself to keep others comfortable. Letting go of that identity didn't mean that I became rude or selfish. It just meant that I was becoming more real. It meant I was honoring my boundaries, saying what I actually feel, letting people be uncomfortable if it means I'm being true to myself. Now, I don't aim to be nice, I aim to be honest, grounded, loving, but with a spine. I can be kind without shrinking. I can be soft without being a doormat. I've learned that people who are meant for me are going to respect me more, not less, for showing up as the fullest version of myself. Number eight, I stopped listening to sad music. It sounds like such a small thing, but it made a huge difference. I used to listen to sad music on repeat, songs that matched my heartbreak, my loneliness, my feelings of being misunderstood. In a way, it felt comforting, like the music got me, but over time, I realized I wasn't just listening to it, I was marinating in it, and I was reinforcing my sadness every time I hit play, feeding the emotion instead of releasing it. I stayed in cycles of low energy without even realizing the role that this music was playing. So I made a shift. I started being more intentional with what I allowed into my ears, my mind, and my energy. And I replaced the sad music with uplifting music that made me feel happy. And it changed so much for me. It honestly changed my mood, my mindset, my energy. I believe music is a form of manifestation, and what you listen to over and over becomes part of your inner world. So now I choose music that aligns with the life that I'm creating, not the one that I've outgrown. And that's part of the reason why I love K pop so much, because most of the time it's upbeat and the lyrics are positive. Number nine, I practiced gratitude. There was a time when all I could focus on was what I didn't have, what wasn't working, what was missing, what hadn't shown up in my life yet. I thought that once my circumstances changed, then I could be grateful. Once I got the relationship, the apartment, the income, then I'd finally feel happy. I'd finally feel peace. But that mindset kept me stuck in lack. It made me blind to everything that was already good in my life. So I decided to shift. I started practicing gratitude intentionally. Every day I made space to acknowledge what was already here, the simple things, the small wins, the parts of my life that were beautiful, even if they weren't perfect. And the more I focused on what I had, the more I realized I actually had a lot. Peaceful mornings, a body that carries me, friends who love me, dreams that still feel alive. I stopped waiting for something big to feel grateful, because the real magic is in the little moments we often overlook. Practicing gratitude didn't mean that I stopped desiring more, it just meant that I stopped living in a constant state of not enough. Gratitude grounded me. It reminded me that abundance isn't a destination, it's a perspective. And once I tapped into that, everything else began to flow more naturally. Number 10, be present. Time doesn't exist. For so long, I lived either in the past or the future, replaying memories, rehearsing worries, wondering when things would finally align. I thought that I had to wait for the right moment to be happy. But the truth is, time isn't even real. It's something that we made up to measure things. But the only real moment that exists is right now. The past is just a memory, the future is just a concept. The only thing that's ever real in this moment is right here. When I finally let that sink in, everything shifted. I stopped rushing, I stopped waiting, I stopped living in someday. Instead, I chose to come back to this breath, this feeling, this moment. Being present doesn't mean ignoring your dreams. It just means that you're anchoring in the now so deeply that your energy becomes magnetic. It means trusting that the more you ground yourself in this moment, the more aligned your future becomes. So now I slow down, I savor the little things. I notice the way the sun feels on my skin, the way my body moves, the beauty in ordinary moments. I don't need to chase time or outrun it. I just need to be here. Because presence is where peace lives. And when you're fully present, you already have everything. This is a final bonus tip. Use manifestation to feel happier. Here's what I've learned: you don't have to feel good all the time to manifest what you want. You don't have to be high vibe 24/7. You don't need to force positive emotions or fake joy. What really matters is what you assume to be true. Manifestation isn't about chasing feelings, it's about claiming identity. It's about knowing with quiet certainty that what you desire is already yours. Not because you feel super happy every second, but because you've decided. You've chosen it in your mind, and that inner decision holds power. When I started living from the version of me who already has everything I want, my energy naturally began to shift. Not because I was trying to feel good, but because I stopped doubting. I stopped seeking. I started being. That inner stillness, that knowing, is where happiness begins. Not because life became perfect, but because I stopped waiting for proof. I already had it within. So if you want to feel happier, stop trying to chase the feeling. Just embody the version of you who already has it all. She's calm, certain, secure. She doesn't chase joy, she is it. Not because of what she feels, but because of what she knows. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. Comment down below which shift hit home for you. I'd love to hear from you guys. Happiness isn't this huge, distant thing, it's built in the tiny, everyday choices. And you can feel good again. I promise it's possible. Until next time, friends. Bye.